Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Energy Expansion Podcast. I always say welcome back because I know that so many of you come back week after week to listen, to tune in. And I know that you listen because you then message me and tell me, or you share it on your socials, and I'm forever grateful. But also, if it's your first time listening, then welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Today, we're going to do something we have never done before, and I'm really excited to do this. So, one of my favorite ways to show up and add value on the various social media platforms that I show up on is by speaking, and specifically by going live. There is what I feel like is a magic in that. You might be like, Dani, I would rather do anything except go live on social media. I want to say there's something about my manifesting generator energy where I love being able to feed off of people in real time. I love being able to read your comments and see what's landing and resonating through different social media reactions. And just a few moments ago, I ended a live video that originated on my Instagram. It's now posted there, so you can check it out. But this conversation feels really, really important. And it's along the lines of faith and specifically a conversation around some of my perspectives and my personal, I'm really emphasizing the my, because what's true and right and feels good and aligned for me might be very different for you or the person sitting next to you or your best friend or your significant other. And I love that. I get that. It is what makes us all different. But there were a couple things, you'll hear about this because I'm going to share the live video with you right now on the podcast. There were a few things that I had seen floating around on the internet recently that were essentially throwing shade at Jesus. And I was not okay with that. I'm not mad at anybody. This isn't a retaliation, but I had this moment of there are so many people in my world, specifically podcast listeners, who have come to me to say that they're in a season of life where they're really exploring their beliefs. And a handful of you have even come to me after listening to certain podcast episodes, and you were like, I'm in tears. This conversation centered around Jesus is something that I've been feeling like I'm supposed to explore for myself. And so when I'm seeing people on the internet in very close proximity to me saying things about Jesus that would have someone who's just curious about it maybe feel like it's not something they should explore, or that they're bad or they're wrong, or they're going to disappoint someone if they dive deeper into figuring out what a relationship with Jesus, or what I call God, means to them. And to each their own, everybody's social media platform, freedom of speech, that's great. And I didn't necessarily know right away that I was going to talk about this, but it started eating me up. And I started thinking about, and this has happened more than one time in the last few weeks. I started thinking about people in the audience of these individuals who are posting not so great loving things about Jesus. And if that's you, if you're trying to figure out what faith means to you, if you've been feeling like God, Spirit, Jesus is nudging at your heart to pay attention, I want to create a space and a forum. This is like an always thing for me. This is always my mission. It's the underbelly of everything I do because it's a part of who I am. I wanted to have a direct conversation about all of this. And so that's what today's episode is going to be about. I am super excited to share this with you. I hope you love it. And my absolute favorite thing is that because this was a live conversation, there were comments coming in real time, and people who were confused, and people who were not necessarily confused with my message, but confused with where I stand on certain things. I get that with some people's upbringings or background, being a follower of Jesus or organized religion, and I really believe that being a follower of Jesus and organized religion do not need to be synonymous. I do believe that they can be two very different things. It's like, Dani, how can you be a person with such a big open heart and create safe spaces and be having conversations like this? Because when I was growing up, these were not safe conversations. And so I have so much love and respect for all of that and everybody's life experience and worldviews, and it's all welcome here. This is just one little sliver of my experience and my heart and my perspective. But the thing that I loved was, because this was in real time, what you're going to hear towards the end of the episode, it's actually a big chunk of the episode, is me getting to engage with people in real time as I read their comments aloud and then address them. So with that being said, enjoy. Hello, my loves. We are here to have a very important conversation today. It's a conversation that, for various reasons, I wish it didn't, but it feels really, really confronting and really uncomfortable. This is something that I have felt called to talk about, and I indirectly weave bits and pieces of this conversation into everything I do, but I saw something posted by someone who I follow, someone who I care about, someone that I've known for a couple of years, and I felt really triggered and sad by this. And I took it to my coaching clients and was like, hey, there's this thing happening. Here's how I've been feeling about it. And I was able to process. They were able to see me like work through this in real time. And then something else happened last week. It's so interesting because like the timing of it happening, it was like, okay, Dani, you absolutely have to say something. And this conversation that we're having right now has like been keeping me up. It has been in some ways eating me alive. And I feel like I could not go another minute without having this conversation. And this is not to bash anybody. In fact, me being here to have this conversation with you, and the reason it's eating me up is because I'm a stand for creating a safe environment in all of the places that I am, all of the places that I lead. And I feel like there have been some comments made about someone who means the literal world to me. And I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't speak up. Like, you're allowed to say what you want, and you're allowed to say what you want, and you're allowed to say what you want, but people are going to see that. And I want to make sure that there are other people saying other things that feel like the truth. And there's no truth with a capital T. There's my truth. There's your truth. I want to preface all of that. So if someone was speaking poorly about someone you love, would you speak up? Would you defend them? This is me in my own way, in my own right, doing that. And the person who we're going to talk about is Jesus. We're going to talk about Jesus, okay? So I want to bring you into some of the story, some of the context. You don't have to be a Jesus follower. You don't have to love Jesus. You can love whoever you want, but my relationship with Jesus is the cornerstone of my identity. It is the foundation on which my life is built. It is the foundation on which I do anything, everything, motherhood, leadership, marriage. It's who I am. So just know that if you love me, if you care about me, and this isn't even about me, but like I probably represent other people in your life who you may or may not know that my truth is similar to their truth. When you bash Jesus, or you guilt or shame people for liking Jesus content or for filled up when they go to church, it's not a good look. It doesn't make the people that you say you care about feel good. What's so interesting, because this happened last week. Wednesday was the first day of my kids going back to school. My kids were in public school up until last year, and we'd wanted to make a change for a little while. I'm not saying you have to make any specific choice. I want you to do what is best, right, and most aligned for you. This is the best, most aligned fit for my family, and I have never been happier and more confident in any choice as a mother ever in my entire life. All of that being said, I am the queen of my crystal grids, and I've got my like feathers here, and I love the mysticism. I'm so into the witchy and the woo, and live in a space where all of these things intersect and fit really beautifully. So this is not me telling you that you have to believe one thing or there's only one right way. I have come to a place of integration of my relationship with Jesus, the importance of my faith, and also really loving everything that I feel God has made, God has provided us with, God has infused love and frequency and all these amazing tools. So my kids are at school on Wednesday, their first day of school. I take my oldest daughter to her brand new campus and they are blaring Forrest Frank. If you follow me and you don't know who Forrest Frank is, I don't know how you've been following me, because me and my family are obsessed with him, his music, his message. All I listen to for the most part is worship music. I want to listen to things that fill me up, that bring me closer to my highest self, to God, to my intuition. Again, I feel like there's an integration where those things are like one in the same. And I really, truly believe that I am an extension of Source Creator. I happen to call that God. You might happen to call it something else. I see the divinity in you. I see Creator in you everywhere I go. So I drop my kids off and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I love this place. I go to pick up my younger daughter at the end of the day and I ask her teacher, how was your day? He said, you know what? I feel really blessed. There's certain terminology. I love that my kids start every day with prayer. Like, that Jesus, God, faith, their hearts are at the forefront of every single thing they do. This is so important to me, and it doesn't have to be to you, but it feels really good for me. So a little bit later in the day, I saw someone who I love, and this is not about the person that I care about. This is not like the former mastermind sister. I deeply care about her, but I saw her post something, I'm paraphrasing here, something along the lines of a former client of hers. All right, love, real quick pause because I have to tell you about something that is truly life-changing. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, then there is a 99.9% chance that you have heard me talk about Energy Expansion Academy, which is my signature group coaching program where I teach the exact tools, rituals, mindset shifts that helped me create a life that goes beyond my wildest dreams and has transformed the lives of hundreds of women that I've had the honor of serving. And for the first time ever, it is now available as a self-paced experience. That means you get to move through this powerful transformation on your own terms, in your own timing, and in full alignment with your life. This is for the woman who's ready to shift her energy, elevate her mindset, and finally become the most confident, fulfilled, and successful version of herself. Without the hustle, without the overwhelm, and without the second guessing. If you've been feeling the nudge to join us inside of EEA, then this, my love, is your sign. You'll find the link in the show notes or just DM me EEA on Instagram and I'll personally send it your way. Now, let's get back to the episode that you came for. Started liking Christian / Jesus saved me content. And this person was sad about it. This person was sad that a former client of theirs was exploring a relationship with Jesus. And then it made me think about the thing a few weeks ago that triggered me, where someone who's been in my life for a really long time was at a concert and posted on her Instagram stories that the musician said, "Praise Jesus." And this person said, #know your. A musician can't say no or can't say praise Jesus. They've got to know their audience. They've got to read a room. They're going into a room where saying praise Jesus isn't allowed. And I'm not saying that's what everyone needs to say, but what I am saying is we should be able to walk into rooms where the audience knows that it's okay to believe whatever you want to believe. And now, the reason I'm so fired up about this is because through my platform here, all of my various social media platforms, through my podcast, it is not a Christian-based podcast per se, but it doesn't have to be because this is who I am and this is what you're going to receive. But here is why I'm making this video today, because I have had multiple people reach out to me. I mean, a dozen or more over the last few months and say, privately, not publicly, because they're scared to say it publicly, which makes me want to cry. But other people can publicly say, If you follow Jesus Save Me content, there's something wrong with that. Or if you say praise Jesus, find a different room. I am not okay with that. I still care about these people. This isn't about these people, but this is me reminding you, this is me hopefully using my words, my passion, my truth, my energy to counteract that. I would be heartbroken if there was someone who genuinely felt like they wanted to just explore what it would look like to have a relationship with Jesus, and they saw something like that, and they saw the 50-something comments in support of that, and they thought to themselves, oh yeah, it's bad or wrong, or it's weird, or I shouldn't do that. No. So this is a safe place where I'm going with this. I've had a handful of people reach out to me recently and say, Dani, thank you for sharing about your faith. Thank you for having the courage to utter the word Jesus, the name Jesus. Do you know that that is the most dangerous word to say? I remember reading a statistic about that. What has happened to us as humanity if we can't utter a name that I deem to be the most powerful, redemptive name, a name of one of the greatest healers known to man? His existence, the miracles he made have been confirmed by people who are not Christian, by people who did not write the Bible. There are facts here, family, and all other beliefs are welcome, right? But I could not go another day. I could not go another minute without reminding all of you that you are so loved, that there is a creator, whatever you want to call it, who cares about you and your heart, who is after your heart, whose hand is on everything in your life in the best possible way. And I've had people come to me recently to say, Dani, thank you so much for speaking up about your faith, your relationship with God, and the importance of Jesus in your life, because I have been feeling like Jesus wants me to pay attention. I have been feeling called to cultivate a relationship with God, but I don't know where to do that. And I don't know that there's a safe space for me to do that. And I feel like in your podcast, I feel like in your content and on your platforms, this is the space that I've been looking for. That's what I wanted to say today. You're so welcome here. You're so loved here. I mean this with love. I don't care what you believe, what your background is. And I get that there's also nuance here. I get that there's something known as religious trauma. I know that a lot of this can be triggering for a lot of people. Even bits of how I was brought up didn't resonate, and I did not come to have this specific relationship with God, Jesus, and with my faith until my late 20s. I had to go on this whole complicated journey, and I completely understand that. And I get that if what I'm saying right now isn't for you and triggers you, like, that's also okay. And I want you to know you're welcome here. I love having conversations about beliefs. I love my crystals and my feminine energy cycle and learning about other backgrounds and Eastern medicine and practices and breath work and meditation. And again, I'm saying these things like they're separate, but they're not actually separate in my mind. Having multiple people in close proximity to me making comments around shaming people for exploring their beliefs makes me really sad. It makes me sad for them. It makes me sad for their audience. And I would not be who I am. I would not be doing my job if I didn't take a moment to pause and remind you what I believe to be true. And that there are spaces on the internet where we can have open, loving conversations like this, where we seek to understand, where we seek to deeply get to know each other. We seek connection. So I feel like I said what I wanted to say. I'm just looking up. I did take some notes. Yeah, we touched on a lot of this. As soon as I end this live, the comment section is going to disappear. And so I'm going to take a minute, hang out. We can have a little bit more discourse. I said what I wanted to say. I said, I'm going to put this on my page, but I do want to go back and acknowledge everyone for being here and your comments. Thank you for tuning in. I have to tell you, I have a little confession. We had a couple of people here. Yeah. That's so funny. Mallory said, preach, Dani. Whoa, I put that before you even said Jesus. So this is my second attempt at this live. I hit live and we had a couple of people. Thank you so much, babes. I see you, who were here for the first 60 seconds. And I was like, we need to regroup. We're coming back in a second. So take two is what we wanted. Hello, Paula, my love. Hi, Whitney. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for all this love. And this isn't about me receiving love. I appreciate it. I love the validation. I love that we're here for this conversation. But this is about me doing my part. Again, I said at the very beginning, if you saw someone you deeply loved and care about, if you saw your best friend being talked about poorly on the internet, if you saw somebody making fun of people or expressing disappointment for loving someone you loved, I hope that you would not stay silent. And it reminds me, there was this shirt and it said, Jesus is my homeboy. Do you remember that? Mary is my homegirl. I had multiples of those shirts and those were my favorite. And to this day, Jesus is my homeboy. And if someone's going to throw shade at him, I'm not going to get up in comments and argue, but I am going to create space and a conversation to remind people that there's a whole different pocket of the internet having a very different conversation. That was my point of today. Legacy said, this is interesting to hear. I'm very against Abrahamic religion, and I've noticed you and Jolie seem to resonate with it. You guys are actually the only people who lean towards the faith that I respect. That's so interesting because there's also, remember Legacy, I said there's nuance. I do believe in something. This has got to be a real name. I don't know for a fact that it is, but I do believe that there is massive pockets of Christianity as well as every other religion, every other belief system that are deeply, deeply toxic and unhelpful. And I think that there are certain beliefs, lots of beliefs I've gotten up and I've walked out of church sermons and services because I felt so disgusted by what was being preached and it went so against my values. What we're talking about here, Legacy, is who Jesus Christ was as a person and as a healer. And I think that there's a lot of things that if Jesus were to come back right now, he would see traditional Christian churches doing, and he'd be like, you guys, you freaking did not understand the assignment. You missed the mark. I am not a stand for that. Who told you I said to do that? So Legacy, thank you for sharing that here. And my interpretation of your comment, I completely get it. I totally get it. And I feel for a really long time have felt like I'm not a good enough Christian or Christian enough for some Christian people in my life. And I also feel like I'm too Christian for witchy woo and the mystics. And I feel it used to feel really uncomfortable in my mind and in the truth of my heart. It all fits and all makes sense. And I'm at a season of my life now at an age perhaps where I'm so rooted and grounded in that. That's cool. If that is not for you, if that pisses you off, that's a you thing, not a me thing, right? Mallory says it's okay to believe whatever you want. Yeah. Legacy says, I do believe in and respect Jesus though. Okay, cool. I got you. You got me. I've never found a reason not to accept that I don't resonate with the Bible at all. I find it harmful. Yes. I have mad respect for the Bible. And also there's a bone to pick, a bone that I'd like to pick with the men who sat around at the table and created what we now know the Bible is and cherry picked what they wanted. I do believe that the Bible is often used and weaponized for lots of really terrible things. Funny enough, there's a book called Mary Magdalene Revealed. It's by Megan Watterson, and it talks about so much of what Legacy and I are talking about as I weaving in discourse to her comment here. And I was reading the book and feeling really angry at what we now deem as traditional Christianity, but also feeling more connected to Jesus than ever before. There were women preachers and pastors Mary has her own gospel. Women had their own gospels. Please come at me if you want. This is the part of the conversation where, for Christian friends, I am being a bad Christian by saying these things, but this is what I know to be true. There's proof. There are things that we were supposed to know that Jesus literally only taught women. And those things were, they tried really hard to destroy them so that we would never find them, not we as women, but we as humanity. And so we're missing a big chunk of Jesus's teachings, like wild, because it didn't serve people in power. So I'm so here for all of this. Yeah. Stephanie said, so weird to feel so strongly about someone else exploring their own personal relationship with whatever they want to believe in a higher power is. Yeah. And yes. And because of the conversation that we're having with legacy now, like, I understand where that would be someone's perspective. And so this is not me. Let me be clear. I do not think that the person who posted that thing is bad or wrong. In their worldview, in their experience, they're exactly right. That's why they said it. And also, I have to take a stand for what I believe to be true. And I really want people to feel safe exploring whatever they want to explore without shame, without guilt. Like, it makes me really sad that if that coach's former client who the post was about saw that, like, I would never in a million years want a client of mine to think that I was disappointed in her or that she no longer had a place in my reality because X, Y, and Z. Are you with me there? Okay, Legacy, this is so great. Legacy said, trying to find a way to ask this. What if we don't like Abrahamic? I get what you're saying. I've never heard it put that way, but I know exactly what you mean. Religious in our space. I don't want my kids learning about it. I still have a ton of respect for you and love you dearly. Yeah, okay, so Legacy, I'm going to scroll down because you posted this comment many, many minutes ago, and we've had this discourse. So I'm hoping that with what I had shared so far, that like it helped address some of these things. Like the other side can feel this exact way about this topic in a way. I don't know if that makes sense. I get riled up. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we're on the same page here. And we don't even necessarily have to have the same belief preferences, right? To be able to agree that like we're seeing something very similar. We're feeling something very similar. Okay. I love that you're speaking about your passion and experience. Awesome. Awesome. Stephanie said, I'm not super religious. I don't read the Bible daily, but I do believe in God, in Jesus, and in a higher power. And my relationship with that higher power is really none of anyone else's business. I do feel like that is why when I went live today, like this is a me thing. And I got a little fiery because your girl gets fiery. And Mallory even said at the beginning, preach, Dani. And I appreciate the sentiment of that. Like, get fired. You say the things, girl, like whatever's on your heart, you say it. And also that doesn't mean you have to receive it. And that doesn't mean when they're speaking, I have to receive it. But I can respect and appreciate what they're going to put on their pages, right? The reason this felt really vulnerable was because this is deeply personal. This is deeply personal. Yeah. Yeah. Mallory said there was no way I wasn't coming back. Thank you, Mallory. This is so interesting. There's so many more comments here. I'm having the most amount of fun with all of you. And then she went on to say, yes, okay, we're good then. Legacy, babe. I don't know at what point that the flip switched and you were like, okay, cool, we're golden. But I'm glad that that happened. And also, you know, there's like, I don't even know how many, over 100 different branches of Christianity. And like, I'm not going to knock that, but I have been to churches where I was like, this ain't it. I moved to San Diego exactly 2 years ago. And you guys, I went to 7 churches and like, I church shop. I got to know that my soul feels at home. And it took a lot of devotion, a lot of commitment to find a place where my soul felt at home. But I went to this one church. If you're in the Bay Area, it might have changed since I was there, but there was a church in Livermore called Crosswinds. I prefer to go to non-denominational churches. So there's not a denomination. It's just Christian teachings. Also, I have a client who works inside of the Universalist Unitary. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Mary. Any you people out there. I have been to her church and I love what they teach. And it is not, I don't believe it's like every different religion and the core principles, be a good person, be kind. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what my church teaches too. But the pastor at Crosswinds in Livermore used to say, this is how you know you've got a good church, in my opinion. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm going to share the teachings of Jesus. And then his exact words were, and then you've got to wrestle with it. You've got to filter it through your head, your heart, your life experience. And if you want to have a conversation about it, if you need help wrestling through it, I'm here for you. And the first time I heard him say it, I was like, this is my place. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm not going to convince you of anything. I'm going to illuminate the most life-changing teachings and principles, and then you get to choose whatever you're going to do with that. Yeah? I don't believe in cutting out groups of people. Yes, okay, cool. Church does not equal faith. Yes. OMG. You literally just read my mind, because multiple times here, in this conversation, I've talked about church. The right church environment. What does this mean? Where my soul feels at home, where I feel like I am in a building with people and we have shared values that go just beyond believing in Jesus Christ and thinking the Bible can be helpful in some ways. Church is not for everybody. Church is not for everybody. What I have found is when I go to church, when I'm in spaces with people who are praising and worshiping and opening up their minds and their hearts to Creator, there's probably a different way to say that, but that's what wants to come through right now. Like that actually, I can feel a tangible shift in my energy. I say this and I mean this. My husband does not get that at church. So he often, most of the time, doesn't come with me. I go alone gladly. Why? Because I can sit in the front seat. The front seat, yeah. I can sit in a seat in the front row and I can have my hands up and I can be worshiping and I can be dancing, because that makes me so freaking happy. When I go with my husband, he'd be like, we are not sitting in the front and you're going to keep those hands down, girl. So this is a me thing. I really truly believe that when my husband is out in nature, when he is fishing, when he's doing things where he's moving his body, when he's getting fresh air, that's his church, right? So you might be triggered by the word church. Use it, don't use it. Maybe you like the word church, but you don't like a building, the institution, the establishment. Cool. Your church, wherever you connect to yourself, to your Creator, chef's kiss. I love it. Stephanie, I'm so glad you popped that in here. Okay, I think the laws of the Bible are terrible, and usually people who believe in Jesus subscribe to it. Seeing Mia Magic and kind spiritual people believe in Jesus has been healing for me. I'm glad that you've had that healing. Yeah. Yeah, the Magdalene gospel, the Gnostic gospel, the gospels that are teachings from Jesus that were left out of the Bible are freaking incredible. Okay. I love all of you. Yeah. I see you, Paula, babe. Stephanie and Paula are here for Feisty Dani. I think I got it across. I didn't expect you to understand, but you did. Legacy. Girl, I see you. I feel you. I get it. Okay. I love all of you so dang much. You're healing my religious trauma and my church trauma, Dani. I am so glad. Legacy, that is the greatest compliment of them all. And I totally get the comments from people who I love and respect. And even after their comments that got me all riled up, I still love and respect them. And they're allowed to share and post whatever they want to. But again, in closing, seeing people throw shade at the Jesus that I know, and maybe the Jesus that you grew up knowing is not a good and beautiful and wonderful Jesus. Maybe it was a Jesus that you felt like you were scared of, that you had to run from, that you had to hide from. That's not the Jesus I know. That's not the Jesus I know. No, 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 no. Oh my goodness, that's not the Jesus that my children know. I do not push anything on my kids. They both came to church with me. I say both. I have 3 kids. My 3-year-old wants to go to church with me every day. Mama, we go to church today? No, it's only Monday. So he asks me 6 more times until Sunday. Mama, we go to church today? Yes, we go to church today, bub. My girls, sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. They're not forced to do anything that they don't want to do. They are now at a school that teaches Christian principles. If we didn't feel like that was the right fit, we would pull them out. I don't force them to listen to Forrest Frank. I don't force them to listen to worship music. I don't force them to pray. They do all of these things on their own because of how I choose to live. And then they pick up pieces of that works for them. So again, in closing here, thank you for being here for this conversation. There is no right or wrong way to do any of this. I just owed myself and my relationship with my best friend in the whole wide world, whose name happens to be Jesus. I feel like if I'm seeing him be bashed on the internet, I just want to stick up for my best friend. I really hope, guys, that if somebody were bashing me in a pocket of the internet, one of y'all would stick up for me, right? So that was what I was doing. I was just speaking truth, standing up for somebody who I love, and reminding people who are curious and aren't as grounded and rooted in their faith as I am that there are safe spaces to explore this. Might feel like it's for you, might not. That's okay. I love you. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah. Oh, Legacy says, I would stick up for you for sure. Yeah. All right, loves. Have an amazing week and chat soon. I love you all. I want to save these comments. How do I save these comments? They're going to disappear. All right, I'm going to get this reposted so that anyone who missed this or is just joining can catch the replay. And we're back. We're back here together on the Energy Expansion podcast for our closing message. So, like I said, I hope you enjoyed that live. This feels like a really important conversation. Obviously, it's something I'm really passionate about. You can probably hear it in my voice right now. You could hear it in the intro message, as well as I was live on Instagram. And it wasn't a perfect conversation. I don't think anything ever is, but it was real and it was from my heart. And I've got to be honest with you, every single time I go live, there's this moment of, I will often go back and watch them. And so when I go back and watch them, I'm able to really acknowledge where I'm like, yes, okay, cool. I love, Dani, how you said it that way. I love that you got your point across in this way. And there's also moments of like, ooh, I wish you would have been more mindful around like that choice of words. And so there's always me going in. I used to just purely be my own worst critic. And now I can be really, really loving. I'm my own best friend. I'm my biggest cheerleader, my biggest fan, my biggest motivator, and I can celebrate myself. And on the flip side of the coin, I can look at a message really objectively, especially investing the amount of time and money that I have in learning how to speak strategically, to speak in a way that can move the masses, to speak in a way that inspires. And really, I have such a deep love for the art of storytelling. And so I don't always do it perfectly, but I do have to say, I think I do it pretty well, which is why it's one of my favorite things to teach. So before we close out, I wanted to bring you in behind the scenes. So after that live, and you got to hear some of the back and forth dialogue, like what was happening in real time. And like I mentioned earlier in the intro, I think that's what made this conversation so rich. And I'm really glad I decided to do this as a live video and not something pre-recorded, or even not something that I tried to do on a series of story slides, right? Where those are pre-recorded. They're a minute each. So I'd have to do, like 10 of those slides to get my point across. But I wouldn't have been able to engage with my community in the way that I was able to here. And I feel like that was part of the magic. And so what I also wanted to share with you was this video currently has about a dozen comments on Instagram, the actual replay. So when you do a live video and you even hear me say this at the end, I'm like, how do I save these comments? Because anything that's happening, any engagement that's happening live, as soon as you stop the live video and then repost it, all of that is gone. Like it's lost. Lost is not the right term, but it disappears. And so once I reposted it, there was a series of new comments that came through from people who were watching it. Things as simple as Ashley Tafoya, who's in my world and I love her so much, says, I'm so here for this conversation every single time. And Ashley and I have differing perspectives, but also so much alignment with this particular conversation. And so it's so cool to get to, and I want to share some of these comments with you from the replay. You can go see these right now if you want to on my Instagram. So one of the women, Ashley, who is just means so much to me and she's in my world, she's inside of Energy Expansion Academy right now. She said, I'm so here for this conversation every single time. And Sheena says, so proud of you, loved all of this. This was a conversation that was really and so I want to share some of these comments with you that came through after I posted the video. They're now on the replay. You are welcome to go read these yourself. And please go comment on the video as well if you'd like to. And so there's some really simple comments like, I'm so here for this conversation and so proud of you, loved all of this. Really encouraging. Stephanie says, I'm so glad I was able to be there live today. So Stephanie watched the live and came back to comment on the replay, which was so great. Someone else here, Liv, who I am obsessed with, says, Dani, there's so much gold here. Thank you, as always, for your refreshing perspective. I know that I definitely have some healing around this subject to do because similar to some of the live attendees, I get an icky feeling in the pit of my stomach when the topic of organized religion comes up. But I also believe that you're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. I have an issue with people using those beliefs as justification to be a not so great person. She uses a different word there, but I'm being mindful of the verbiage because I know a lot of people listen to this with their kids, so you can go read it. And I'm so glad that Liv brought that up. And I said, my response to her was, I am in full agreement with you, full agreement in all caps. I am hesitant to call myself a Christian because there are so many Christians who operate in ways that go against my deepest beliefs and personal values. I believe that Jesus would be wildly saddened and disappointed in most of what we see in organized religion today. At the heart of this conversation and my core beliefs, I think Jesus is really cool. I love him and his purest teachings, not what's been diluted and completely misconstrued over time. And I strive to live in a way that honors him, his teachings, and God. Liv went on to say, not gonna lie, when I heard you mention Jesus, I almost stopped listening, but I'm so glad that I didn't. Hearing you speak from the heart has been so healing. So that was a little bit more of the conversation that I wanted to share, the after hours part of this, because I know that that comment in the comment section of that video represents how so many people feel. And what's even cooler and really solidifies this entire conversation and my response to that comment was something I had never heard or seen before. But of course, it was within 24 hours of recording that live and then turning it into this podcast episode. I walked into my younger daughter, into her classroom. It was open house. The school year just got started. And there's a wall where all of the children in my daughter's class, they got to draw a picture, like a portrait of themselves. And so there's these really adorable, all so different, a wide range of variety of skill and different colors that were used and materials. Some were markers, some were crayons, some were colored pencils, some were Sharpie. This whole array of these faces, and right in the middle in huge cut out letters, it said, do not aim to be like other Christians. Aim to be like Christ. And I felt like it just really solidified so many aspects of this conversation. And saying it's solidified is an interesting choice of words because that makes it sound like it's final. And this conversation, we're not done having this conversation. This conversation has been woven into the majority of every single one of our podcast episodes. And I just felt called to speak to it in a more direct manner than ever before. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you loved it. Let me know what you think inside of my DMs. My DMs are always open to you. I love having conversations with you. If you enjoyed this and there is someone in your world who could benefit from a perspective and a conversation like this, please, please, please share it. Share it with your people. Share it one-on-one. Share it publicly in the spaces that feel right and aligned for you. And I can't wait to see you on the next podcast episode.